stakeholder piece then for the time being, Wesley, because I know one thing that emerged from our research was that improving the quality of strategic debate at the top table remains a real focus for APAC leadership teams. So if we look at the role of the HRD within that as well, what would you say their job is in terms of creating high-performing leadership teams who are able to deliver a strong quality of strategic debate at the top table?
Yeah, look, I think one of the most important things is that we probably have to wear more of a dual hat than only an HR or people and culture hat. So one of the most important things about being able to take a position at the strategic decision-making table is to understand the commerciality of the business. So first and foremost, if you're sitting at that table, it can't just be around people and culture. It has to be the business and the commerciality of that business and the broader performance of that business in the context of using or leveraging people and culture as a way to facilitate that. So that's the way you need to come in. You need to be able to come in with evidence as opposed to thoughts and feelings, so that you can actually measure what it is that you're trying to change or transform. And be outcome focused as opposed to process focused. You need to be able to come in again with that commerciality, understanding how to leverage the differences within a business, but then to be able to put that into some outcome and quantitative value so that people can understand the impact of certain changes, whether that be people or culture or process, but again, with the focus on outcomes.
Okay, that's great. I know being outcome focused, I think, is a really important point to raise, and it is something that I'd like to come on to a little bit later as well, Wesley. Sure. But in terms of the HRD, then, how can they ensure themselves that they have a seat at the table? Because I know when we spoke prior to this, that is something which is a real challenge for HRDs right at the moment. So just keen to hear a bit more about that from your perspective.
Yeah, look, I think one of the most important pieces is to be a trusted advisor. So that the advice that you're both providing and listening, which is probably the most important quality of a leader, is to be able to interrogate, peers or CEOs or managing directors by asking questions. And so I think that's where you can listen, evaluate, and provide context. But I think the most important piece to get to that table to have a place, again, as decisions are made, is to be that trusted advisor. And once again, it's about bringing evidence to the table. I've been in many situations as a consultant where HR and people and culture are providing ideas, but they don't necessarily have a context. They don't have a focus. They don't have commercial value. And so those are the pieces that you have to be able to pull out of your tool bag at any point in time, with data and evidence that suggests that if we do these things, we're going to get, again, these outcomes. And also an understanding of if we don't do these things, what's likely to be the impact as well of doing nothing, if you will.
Yeah, okay, that's great. And particularly that point of asking questions. I know when we were last in Singapore for our regional leadership retreat, that was something that came up because I think sometimes it's easy to assume that when you're early in your career, you ask lots of questions, but you should never kind of lose that ability and keenness to learn, really, because whether you're just starting your career or whether you're the chair of a board, I think there's always new things to learn, particularly as the environment constantly changes around us.
Well, one of the things around this idea of asking questions, and as you get later and more mature in your career, you can actually use asking questions as a way to guide people. So it's not so much about just listening, but in your questions, you can actually provide some guidance. So have you thought about this as opposed to that? Or what if we looked at it from this perspective? What do you think would be the outcome? So you're not only being a trusted advisor and asking questions, you're actually giving the leader the opportunity to develop the solution. And you're helping to facilitate that solution as opposed to just giving the answer, because nobody wants to hear the answer. What people want to hear is themselves giving the answer. So if you can facilitate that by asking questions, guiding a direction by asking certain questions certain ways, you get to the same point, but they can own it and they'll look at you as helping them get there versus you walking in the room and saying, here's the answer. Leaders don't want to hear the answer. They want to hear themselves think through the process, and you can facilitate that by asking really good and almost guiding questions.